Hello and welcome to the COVID-19 update on Channels Television. I'm Millicent Walker. First, the highlights. The Nigeria Center for Disease Control holds a preparedness training for journalists as first responders and the link to society in health emergencies. Ondo State government health workers seek residents in public places for COVID-19 vaccine administration. And Hong Kong to enforce COVID-19 testing for 7.4 million residents following predictions of sharp spike. Thank you for joining us. Nigeria has recorded more COVID-19 infections across the country. The NCDC says the new infections were logged in 4 states and the Federal Capital Territory. The breakdown of infections shows Kwara recorded 17 cases, Lagos 7, the FCT 5, Rivers 2, and Kaduna 1. Here's more on the pandemic update.
32 additional persons in Nigeria have tested positive to COVID-19 in the last 24 hours. According to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, the latest figures were reported from 4 states and the FCT, indicating a drop from figures reported earlier. Kwara accounted for the highest number of cases with 17 infections. Lagos had 7, 5 cases were logged in the FCT, Rivers had 2, while Kaduna logged 1 case. The total confirmed cases in Nigeria now stands at 254,325. The report also includes 0 cases from Bauchi, Kano and Plateau states. 38 patients have been discharged in the last 24 hours, increasing the total number of recoveries to 230,793. There was no additional death recorded in the last 24 hours, leaving the fatality toll at 3,142. Currently, there are over 20,000 active cases in Nigeria, while more than 4.3 million samples have been tested so far. Lagos State accounts for the highest number of cases on admission, with over 17,000 positive samples, followed by Benue and Nasarawa states. Over 17.1 million eligible Nigerians targeted for COVID-19 vaccination have received their first dose, while more than 7.5 million of the population have been fully vaccinated. In Africa, over 11.1 million persons have tested positive, while over 247,000 deaths have been recorded across countries on the continent. The total global confirmed cases have surpassed 426 million, while deaths are now beyond 5.8 million.
Nigeria is expecting at least 48 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines before the end of this year. That's according to the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency at the relaunch of Phase 3 of COVID-19 vaccine rollout, tagged Scales 2.0 strategy, and the launch of the vaccination site finder app in Abuja. According to the Executive Director of the agency, Dr. Faisal Shuaib, Nigeria currently vaccinates 200,000 people per day, and that for Nigeria to hit the target of reaching 70% of eligible population before the end of 2022, that number has to more than double. And the media is the first respondent in any outbreak, and developing their health preparedness in prevention, detection and control of communicable diseases is critical in any response. Well, this is according to the Nigeria Center for Disease Control, who is partnering with African Field Epidemiology Network, AfriNet, Breakthrough Action and other partners at a workshop in Lagos. According to the organizers, in over a decade, there has been a 6.9% annual growth of retractions of research work over infectious diseases outbreak, and more in the last 2 years since the COVID-19 pandemic started. They believe that the journalists' reporting matters in identifying the source, and proper research in public health emergencies is important.
Journalists have always been part of the response or outbreaks, but we've always viewed journalists from the lens of, take and go, in terms of, okay, this is information, go and pass it on. But one thing COVID has led us to understand closely is that journalists are part of the response. They need to be recognized as first responders. And so USAID Breakthrough Action, AfriNet and NCDC have come up with a training program to see how do we integrate journalists into a public health response. So that's what this workshop is all about, and it's really with the goal of helping Nigeria to make sure that we are better prepared and also address our contribute to our international health regulations, mandatory capacities for different stakeholders within the population.
And over to Ondo State, where the government aims to cover up to 80% of its eligible population with the COVID-19 vaccination to be sure it has attained herd immunity. The Director of Disease Control and Immunization at the Ondo State Primary Healthcare Development Agency stated this in an interview with Channels Television in Akure, the state capital. According to him, 3 different vaccines are available in the state. The first and second doses of the Oxford-AstraZeneca vaccine, Moderna and Pfizer, along with the booster dose. He notes that trained health officials across 18 local government areas of the state are going to all public places to administer the vaccines on eligible residents.
So ministries, MDAs, immigration office, army barracks, police barracks, and anywhere, even where we see people gathered in large number, we take our vaccines there, and people get vaccinated. Churches and mosques, all of those things are, are captured in this mass vaccination campaign. And how do we keep our vaccines potent? Vaccines from the cold-chain store here in Akure, and also in all the 18 LGAs, we have our, dependable cold-chain system all over there. So our people will come to the cold-chain stores on a daily basis to take vaccine and go to their designated places of work. And at the end of the day, say by 3, 4, they also come back, to submit the empty vials that they might have used. Okay. Our vaccine, where we open 1 vial of vaccine, we can use it up to the period of 6 hours. When we, and I know you will agree with me that when we get to ShopRite or what do we call it now, the open space at Ojade or any other place, before 6 hours could elapse, we could have finished the vaccine. So many times our health workers will also come back to the cold-chain store to get more vaccine, so that vaccine will be made available for those of them that are coming after they might have exhausted the one they took in the morning. So by and large, we have been keeping our vaccine so potent and very consumable for the public.
Well, partnerships have been key in producing the first messenger RNA COVID-19 vaccine in Africa, and getting the vaccine approved and into people's arms will require a similar effort. In January, the first mRNA technology transfer hub in South Africa successfully produced an mRNA COVID-19 vaccine. It was able to replicate Moderna's COVID-19 vaccine without the company's assistance by using publicly available information and support from international organizations and researchers in South Africa and from different parts of the globe. Well, the managing director of the company responsible for that success, Afrigen Biologics, joins us now from Cape Town. Professor Petra Teblanche, thank you for joining us on the program.
Good evening, Nigeria, and thank you very much for the opportunity.
Good evening. How easy was that feat? And this is speaking technologically.
So what is very important, I've heard the comment about partnerships. So for Afrigen, in the partnership with Wits University and supported by technical specialists across the world, and very strongly also the technical groups in the World Health Organization, were in fact able to produce at lab scale a vaccine end-to-end, from the sequence to the plasmid to the DNA, the RNA, and a final vaccine. We are now taking this through further development, and hopefully will transfer this full technology package then to the other spokes appointed on the African continent to be our partners to manufacture these vaccines for use in Africa, people from Africa.
So at the moment, what stage are we in that production? Because a lot of people are wondering, I mean, how unique is this set of mRNA vaccine different from the others already in circulation?
So what is very significant is we have now developed this vaccine with no technology transfer, with our own knowledge base and our own scientific capabilities. This vaccine is now in preclinical phase still. We need to scale up, and we need to do our preclinical development and then go into clinical development. This could take up to 36 months to complete the full process to regulatory approvals to be able to treat people and to vaccinate people. So there is still a long way for us to go.
So as of now, would you call it a copy of Moderna or quite a different vaccine entirely?
So we call it a replica because we use the sequence of the Moderna vaccine 1273, but we use our own knowledge and processes and what is available in the public domain to make this final formulation. We can only tell after our preclinical studies how identical it is to the Moderna vaccine, and that may then fast-track our clinical development.
So let's talk about Moderna itself. Have they said anything? Are there complications with using their sequence, COVID sequence, to make a version of the shot? Have there been any problems legally in any way?
So the sequence does not belong to Moderna. It was discovered by Stanford University, so it is in the public domain. Moderna has come out with a notification that they will implement a waiver during the pandemic and give freedom to operate in the form of a waiver for all, not only for Afrigen and for the mRNA hub, but for all developers of vaccine. BioNTech also last Thursday declared a waiver on the intellectual property for the time that the pandemic is still a pandemic, classified as a pandemic.
Let's talk about vaccination on the African continent. How does this change things? A lot of people are saying this is a game changer, and it speaks well of the future in terms of vaccination on the continent.
So this initiative is very much aligned with the African Union and the Partners for African Vaccine Manufacturing strategy to create capacity and capability on this continent for us to produce 60% of the vaccines we need by 2040. It is completely aligned with it. This is one of many initiatives that will build capacity, capability, create a platform, in this case the mRNA platform, that will enable us not only to develop COVID-19 vaccines, but other vaccines such as HIV, TB, malaria, Lassa fever, Ebola, those vaccines that can be produced on an mRNA platform. So why this is a game changer? It demonstrates Africa's capacity and capability to create a platform. It demonstrates our capacity and our capability to do vaccine design, development, and ultimately manufacturing.
And we're also looking at the laboratory also that was used to design and produce this at such a large scale on the continent as well.
Yes, so Afrigen will produce for clinical trial material. That technology package, the complete ability to make this product according to quality standards, will be transferred then to 6 other companies within the African continent. The announcement was made on Friday by Dr. Tedros from WHO that we will have a spoke to this hub where the center of the technology is developed. It will be transferred to BioVac in South Africa. It will go to Kenya, Nigeria, Senegal, Egypt, and Tunisia, thereby creating a platform and a network of companies on the continent that can produce vaccines for use in people, commercially available, quality, safe, and affordable vaccines.
You talked about the countries selected for the vaccine hub technology. In terms of selection, what are your thoughts about these particular countries?
Quite strategic. The process was, of course, that WHO, in close consultation also with the African Union, put out a call for expression of interest. So it was a completely voluntary participation. These countries, and specifically the companies in these countries, indicated that they would be interested to receive the technology and to participate in this network organization for production of mRNA vaccines. The African Union, in full consultation with the WHO, then, and of course these countries and companies then agreed that these will be the 6 countries that will be part of the mRNA network hub, run and operated by supported by WHO.
In terms of challenges, because these are some of the problems on the African continent, and we saw this much more with COVID-19, what are some of the things and the partnership and collaboration will do for the countries that have expressed interest to the production? And this is also to meet the timeline for the vaccine creation.
So the different countries and the different companies at the different stages of their maturity receive technology. So we will, Afrigen, in close collaboration with these companies, will design training and technology transfer packages that will fast track the different companies. We don't believe they will all come on stream at the same time, but we will work very closely with all 6 these organizations to fast track and to speed up delivery. The challenges are around skills development. Remember, Africa does not have an mRNA vaccine manufacturing sector. We're all learning. We know the principles. And in some cases, our regulatory authorities have not yet reached ML3 status. All of this, creating this ecosystem of regulatory, manufacturing, skills, quality systems, and of course the market reshaping, is driven by multiple partnerships. It is international and local, and it is driven in a way that is designed as an integrated product plan with milestones to ensure that we meet the mandate that was given to this network, create capacity and capabilities for this continent to produce its own quality vaccines.
You had at some fora said that we started with the Moderna sequence because that gives, in the best view, the best starting material. And, you know, others might wonder, why not some of the others?
The decision to choose the Moderna vaccine was quite a strategic one. It's a good vaccine. For us, it's the gold standard. And we know that and the sequence is available, we know that if we can use that sequence and make a vaccine that is comparable, we will not only demonstrate the capacity and the capability on this continent, we will also have a vaccine that will meet regulatory requirements. And that's very important. We can't have an experimental process where it takes us years just to get to a lab scale product. We have to fast track it. So the decision on the Moderna vaccine was a very strategic one.
Talk to us about the South Africa community, especially, I mean, the research community, taking what Afrigen Biologics has done.
So the South African research community is of high excellence, as you know. If we look at COVID over the last 2 years, most of the breakthrough scientific, or many of the breakthrough discussions came from Africa, not only South Africa, but Botswana and other countries. And there's the network in Africa for sequencing that tracks the epidemiology of the disease. Afrigen, because of our history of partnership with South African universities, partnered, in this case, it was easy for us to partner with Wits University. University of the Witwatersrand has a group, a highly competent scientific group that has worked on RNA, mRNA, for the last 6 to 8 years. The application was therapeutic, but for them then to work with the Afrigen group and our scientific base and our bioprocessing engineers, it was not that difficult to put a team together that can make this vaccine in a period of 2 months.
And this is also something that we see will strengthen research on the continent for vaccines and other scientific discoveries.
I couldn't hear your question completely, but I sense it was... Can you repeat that for me?
In terms of strengthening research on the continent, that this is also something that adds to that.
Yeah, Melissa, this is very important. So again, this hub was not created just for a single vaccine. It was not only done for COVID-19. It was created as a platform with the ability to now work with scientists across the continent to design and develop new vaccines. Look at current vaccines and repurpose and improve them, but look at new vaccines for the burden of disease. So this is certainly also a catalyst to build partnerships and to enhance the research capabilities on this continent, again, aligned with the strategy of the African Union and the Partners for African Vaccine Manufacturing. This will provide a facility where scientists can come to scale their vaccine, to get good manufacturing practices, and to produce clinical trial material which meets all the regulatory requirements and stringent regulatory requirements. That ecosystem, that whole value chain will enhance innovation on this continent, vaccine manufacturing innovation.
Perhaps a final question, and this is for those who feel it's still a long way to go for the vaccine at the end of the day. What would you say to that?
For this vaccine, it is still a long way to go, that is true. But remember, we're building a sustainable platform of capacity and capabilities. Even if it takes us for this vaccine 3 years to complete, following on to that is a second generation vaccine with different properties. And already we are making decisions on the priority for pipeline vaccines, HIV, TB, malaria, the key priority diseases for Africa. We also believe that if you look at the WHO projections, just to get 40% of the African population vaccinated for COVID-19 at the current rate may take us 36 months, and it will take a few billion doses. So even this exercise for a COVID-19 vaccine is not in vain. And the sustainability of the pipeline is very, very important.
We appreciate your time. Thank you so much. Managing Director, Afrigen Biologics, Professor Petra Teblanche. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Thank you, Melissa.
In Hong Kong, authorities say they discovered COVID-19 in samples taken from the packaging of imports of frozen beef from Brazil and frozen pork skin from Poland. The Centre for Food Safety tested 36 samples from about 1,100 cartons of frozen beef imported from Brazil by sea and found 1 outer packaging and 2 inner packaging samples that tested positive. Here's more on the global update.
Hong Kong will roll out compulsory testing for COVID-19 starting in mid-March for its 7.4 million residents, as university researchers predict new infections could peak at a staggering 180,000 a day next month. Leader Carrie Lam says residents would need to test 3 times under the compulsory testing scheme, with daily testing capacity reaching 1 million. Daily infection numbers have risen sharply this year in the city, reaching a record 7,533 cases on Monday, overwhelming the government's testing, hospital and quarantine capacities. Over in mainland China, authorities have reported 59 new confirmed locally transmitted COVID-19 cases and 79 imported ones. China's capital, Beijing, reported 4 of the new locally transmitted cases. Strict travel rules imposed ahead of the Winter Olympics are still in place in Beijing. People from cities where new cases have been recorded cannot enter the city, and anyone else must show a negative COVID-19 test result from within the previous 48 hours. In other developments, the cumulative number of confirmed COVID-19 cases in the United States has risen to over 78.5 million, with a death toll of 935,927. The U.S. leads the world in both confirmed COVID-19 cases and related fatalities, with over 1/5 of its population falling victim to the virus. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom recorded 38,409 new cases and 15 deaths over the past 24 hours. Despite the high number of cases recorded, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has announced the end of all domestic COVID-19 restrictions in England, in a process starting later this week.
In England, we will remove all remaining domestic restrictions in law. From this Thursday, it will no longer be law to self-isolate if you test positive, and so we will also end the provision of self-isolation support payments, although statutory sick pay can still be claimed for a further month. If you're a fully vaccinated close contact or under 18, you will no longer be asked to test daily for 7 days. And if you're a close contact who is not fully vaccinated, you will no longer be required to self-isolate.
And finally, royal officials say the Queen has cancelled her virtual engagements for today as she is still experiencing mild, cold-like symptoms from COVID. It was confirmed on Sunday the 95-year-old monarch had tested positive for COVID-19, but officials said she was well enough to carry on with light duties.
Well, our website, channelstv.com, has more updates, a better understanding of the pandemic, plus other stories at your fingertips. That's our program this evening. Thank you for watching. I'm Millicent Walker. Stay healthy.